Okay, so in third grade, a really big deal is problem solving, meaning word problems and how to take those word problems and organize them so that it makes it easier to solve. And so, as a school, we all kind of got together and decided what are the most important things we want the kids to pick out when they're solving problems. And so we agreed the first thing they need to know is what's the question asking. Second thing, what information do I know or do I want to know? The third thing would be like make a plan, like how are you going to solve it, and then always go back and check and especially make sure does my answer make sense. And so what we did is we created this graphic organizer to kind of help them break apart problems. Now, of course, they're not going to use this every single time. This is something we're really going to teach specifically at the beginning, have the kids use and always plug their problems into. But what we're eventually wanting them to do is be able to kind of write this down themselves to solve problems. And so we have an example here. Murray read 156 pages of a book last week and 122 pages this week. How many more pages did he read last week than this week? And so first thing they're going to do is, okay, well, what's the question asking? It's asking how many more did he read last week than this week? And so we kind of abbreviate HMM would be how many more last week than this week. So last week than this week. And so the kids, we talk about this a lot. They can already tell we're going to be comparing. We're comparing something. We're comparing last week to this week. Well, what do I know? Okay, let's go back and look. I know I had 156 pages last week, and I know I had 122 pages this week. So it's just as simple as that, just kind of jotting down information. How will I solve? Well, on this question, since I know that I'm comparing last week to this week, I'm finding the difference. And so I would know that I'm using subtraction. And so over here, we're going to have them solve the problem. Just for space reasons, I'm going to write it over here. So my plan was to subtract. I'm going to go ahead and subtract. Line it up. Start with the 1. 6 minus 2 is 4. 5 minus 2 is 3. So I know I had 34 more pages last week than I do this week. And so I solved the problem. Now I'm going to check my answer. One of the things we teach them to do is to, if they're subtracting, check your answer with the opposite operation. So if I subtracted, I can check my answer with addition. So you can actually have them rewrite it, or you can have them go up and check. What's 4 plus 2? Yep, that's 6. What's 3 plus 2? That's 5. So, or you can have them write it out like this and go back and double check their answer. This is really important to make sure they're not making mistakes, especially with subtraction. But this is just sort of an example of how we use this problem solving plan. But once the kids have used it enough, they eventually can get to where they're doing it on their paper. How many more last week than this? Step 2, what do I know? Jot down my information. I know I had 156 last week. I know I had 122 this week. My plan is to subtract and then go ahead and solve it. So that's kind of the steps that we use for problem solving.